too fast to prepare for this. Tripping in the world could be dangerous. Everybody circling as vultures. Negative, nepotist. Everybody waiting for the fall of man. Everybody praying for the end of times. Everybody hoping they could be the one. I was born to run, I was born for this. Whip, whip, run me like a racehorse. Pull me like a ripcord. Break me down and build me up. I wanna be the slip, slip. Word upon your lip, lip. Rather that you rip, rip. Break me down and build me up. Whatever it's time.
Greater Israel Project. So Israel's got this month to conquer Gaza, and they're loaded up their tanks and they're going to war right now. So that's the distraction. They want to keep the war going, so you know, the usual suspects aren't to blame for everything, which they usually are. You know, look at England, for example, with Stammer. He was there talking peace. He can't even control his own country. He's got millions of illegals there. The birth rate is surpassed white people, so it's all foreigners having babies there, coming over, living on the welfare, and you can't say a word about them. That's not free. That's an imperialist country run by bankers. All the crown countries there, including Macron, married to some cross-dressing he-she. I mean, it's just pathetic. I'll never forget the Olympics, how they bastardized Christ with the big fat lesbian up there, and the Last Supper, they basically did a satanic supper. And then I'll never forget the first day of the Olympics, a woman from Australia was raped there on the first day by some guys from Africa, and they got away with it. Ready, Max? Wee! So here's the latest numbers from Ukraine. 1.7 million casualties. So those numbers I've been given are pretty accurate. 1.7 million, and this came from some hackers that leaked that information. Ready, Max? It's a little windy. Hey. Go. And the war hasn't stopped since the meeting with Trump and the Zelensky. It hasn't stopped. In fact, the Russians have increased their attacks. They took out a cargo carrier in the Black Sea that was full of tanks from Australia. Just blew that up, sunk it to the bottom of the sea. They're attacking infrastructure bases in Odessa. They're hitting oil factories, Azerbaijan oil factories. So this is a global war. You got the BRICS versus the New World Order. And that's what this war is about, and the Greater Israel Project. So they're not going to end it right away. It's going to be to the last Ukrainian, with 1.7 million casualties. Those are dead, missing, I think everything, 1.7 million. The Russians probably got maybe 500,000. They're not going to give up their numbers. But I like to show South Front because South Front is pretty fair. They do lean towards Russia a little bit, but you're getting more factual numbers and factual data, whereas the Western media lies about everything, 90% lies. So this war is going to continue. I don't think there's going to be a peace treaty for a while until Putin and Zelensky get together, but Zelensky's just a puppet, so really it's his handlers that have to stop supplying him, and Trump is breaking away from that. So if America steps out of it, you know, Ukraine will be totally conquered. So Trump doesn't want that. He wants to work out some kind of peace arrangement. But my theory is that this is going to continue until the Gaza war ends in September, and then they'll come together with their trilateral agreement. But I don't think it's going to end right away. Perkosh has been surrounded on all sides. Pretty much there's a lot of areas that are being conquered by the Russians, and it's a 10-to-1 kill ratio. So this can only go on for so much longer. Zelensky has to come to the table. But I think they might go for those rare earth elements. If they could get the rare earth elements there, I think that will make Trump and Zelensky's handlers, BlackRock, and those guys happy, because at least they get something back out of Ukraine. So here's a couple clips from South Front Telegram. I hope you enjoy. Ready, man?
The paradox of modern diplomacy was on full display today. The meeting between Trump and Zelensky at the White House sparked a storm of speculation, yet the outcome remains unchanged. No progress toward a peace arrangement is clear. Despite the media hype, no final deal has been reached. Following the talks on Alaska, Trump faced the challenge of selling the agreements reached with Putin to European and Kiev's puppets, who got together to resist in the White House. The Washington meeting, billed as a step toward peace, only highlighted the West's deepening contradictions. European leaders, despite their public unity, clashed in basic statements. Germany's Friedrich Merz pushed for an immediate ceasefire. Trump rejected it, and Macron even openly doubted Putin's interest in peace. The discussion on security guarantees for Ukraine revealed more emptiness than substance. While Europe pushed for NATO-like commitments, Trump offered vague assurances. In the background, Zelensky could not stop to plead for more weapons, emphasizing Kiev's desperation. The most revealing moment came when Trump paused the meeting to call Putin. The message was clear: the real negotiation channel runs between Washington and Moscow. Kiev and Brussels are just bystanders, not decision-makers. Yet all reluctantly agreed on one point: Kiev's direct talks with Moscow are inevitable. Trump floated the idea of a Putin-Zelensky summit. Russia has not ruled out such a meeting to formalize existing agreements, but has so far only mentioned raising the level of delegations without specifying potential participants. Russia's conditions, including halting arms supplies, Ukrainian withdrawal from contested territories, and legally binding security guarantees, have been repeatedly stated, and just as often dismissed or distorted by Kiev and its European backers. Instead of substantive dialogue, there are attempts to shift the narrative and pressure Moscow into adjusting its stance. This strategy is doomed to fail. Meanwhile, the night sky over Ukraine may offer more answers than politicians' statements. On the night of August 19th, a massive series of combined strikes pounded military, energy, and transport infrastructure across Ukraine. When talks falter, Moscow reinforces its stance, not with words, but with real action. For Europe, this is a sobering reminder. Their paper strategies mean little when Russia can at any moment escalate military pressure. Reality on the battlefields, but not the commentary of Western pundits, is ultimately shaping the course of events. Moscow's stance suggests that it is willing to engage in diplomacy, but it will not give up on its goals, which are backed by victories on the front.
The recent wave of Russian precision strikes across Ukraine has illuminated a critical yet often obscured front in the conflict: the energy war. While the immediate tactical goals are to cripple fuel supplies for the Ukrainian military, these operations carry a significant geopolitical message, primarily directed at Baku. The night explosions that rocked the oil transshipment complex in Izmail on August 20th, destroying the Triton storage base and damaging the tanker Excellion, were not an isolated event. This facility was a key node in a supply chain funneling Azerbaijani-sourced diesel and aviation kerosene from Romania to Ukrainian brigades operating Western-made armor. Similarly, on August 19th, a massive combined strike on the Kremenchug refinery, which processed Azeri light crude, and devastating attacks on SOCAR's facilities near Odessa on August 18th revealed a deliberate strategic shift. For much of the conflict, Azerbaijani energy assets in Ukraine were notably spared, a reflection of Moscow's once careful diplomatic calculus in the South Caucasus. However, this restraint has evaporated following a series of aggressive betrayals by Baku. Trigger was most likely the transfer of the Zangezur corridor between Azerbaijan with Nakhichevan under the control of the United States for 99 years. This was not only an economic but also a strategic challenge for Russia. In early August, the political leadership in Moscow lifted its previous restrictions, now designating Baku-linked infrastructure as legitimate military targets in Ukraine. In response to Russian strikes, Baku threatened to lift a non-existent embargo on weapons shipments to Ukraine. The threat has been met with derision in Moscow, seen as a hollow and hypocritical gesture. Azerbaijan has been a steady military supplier to Kiev since at least 2022, making its public posture an empty threat. Azerbaijan's covert but substantial military support for Kiev included the documented supply of Zu-23-2 anti-aircraft guns, 120mm mortar rounds, and even the establishment of local production lines for artillery shells destined for Ukrainian fronts. Azerbaijan is adjusting the mass production of artillery shells with a caliber of 122 and 152mm for supplies to Ukraine. Production facilities are being deployed at the Avia aggregate plant in Baku. The plant belongs to the Azerbaijani Palladium Defense and Security Solutions Company, which is officially a partner of Ukroboronprom. Baku has long been a belligerent party, profiting from selling oil and fuel for the Ukrainian war machine while simultaneously funneling weapons and mercenaries into the conflict. The strikes on Baku-linked energy infrastructure immediately degrade Ukraine's operational capabilities, while dismantling the lucrative chains that have allowed Azerbaijan to finance and fuel a war against Russia.
The Kiev regime has once again resorted to terrorist tactics, targeting vital Russian infrastructure in a desperate attempt to inflict damage and sow chaos amid the new diplomatic prospects. In the past 48 hours alone, Russian security forces have thwarted two major attacks, one on the Crimean Bridge and another on the Smolensk nuclear power plant, exposing Ukraine's increasingly reckless and dangerous strategy. On August 18th, Russia's Federal Security Service prevented yet another attempt by Ukrainian special services to blow up the Crimean Bridge. It is a crucial civilian transport link connecting mainland Russia with the peninsula. According to intelligence reports, the terrorist operation involved a Chevrolet Volt electric car rigged with 130 kilograms of explosives smuggled into Russia via a complex transnational route. The plan followed a now familiar pattern. The vehicle entered Russia through the Verkhny-Lars border checkpoint after transiting through Ukraine, Europe, and Georgia. The explosives were hidden inside the car, which was supposed to be handed over to the allegedly unwitting civilian driver, effectively turning him into becoming a suicide bomber. The planned explosion could not destroy the bridge, but was aimed at maximizing civilian casualties and creating the necessary media image. This method mirrors the October 2022 truck bombing of the Crimean Bridge, orchestrated by Ukrainian intelligence with Western support. However, this time Kiev opted for an electric car in an attempt to evade thermal and magnetic detection. Russian counterintelligence was long tracking the vehicle, intercepting it before it could reach the bridge. The explosives were safely defused, and several intermediaries involved in the smuggling ring were detained. Just a day before, Ukrainian forces attempted to strike the Smolensk nuclear power plant in the Russian rear region. Ukrainian forces launched their Spis kamikaze drone. The UAV was neutralized by Russian electronic warfare systems before causing any significant damage. This is not an isolated incident. The Zaporozhye nuclear power plant has faced daily drone and artillery attacks. On the eve of the Trump-Putin talks, Ukrainian strikes have caused fires near the plant's perimeter. Kiev's targeting of nuclear facilities proves its complete and total disregard for global safety, echoing tactics that should be condemned as war crimes. However, Kiev's patrons turn their blind eyes. The puppet Kiev regime is escalating provocations to demonstrate victories to its Western backers amid battlefield failures. Kiev is trying its best to gain some leverage and sabotage an unprofitable peace, but largely it fails to create new crises with old terrorist tactics. From nuclear plants to the Crimean Bridge, each foiled attack exposes Kiev's military impotence and moral bankruptcy. The world must recognize the grave danger posed by Zelensky's forces before they lead to irreversible disaster.
legend of the phoenix all ends with beginnings. What keeps the planet spinning? The force from the beginning. Love. We've come too far to give up who we are. So let's raise the bar present has no ribbon. Your gift keeps on giving. What is this I'm feeling? If you wanna leave, I'm with it. We've come too far to give up who we are. So let's raise the bar and our cups to the stars. She's up all night to the sun. I'm up all night to get some. She's up all night for good fun. I'm up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to the sun. We're up all night to get some. We're up all night for good fun. We're up all night to get lucky. 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 She's up all night to the sun. I'm up all night to get some. She's up all night for good fun. I'm up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to the sun. We're up all night to get some. We're up all night for good fun. We're up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to get lucky.